Welcome all, and thank you for coming out to tonight's meeting of the Peoria Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm going to start off by taking roll. Commissioner Jay Atluski.
Here.
Commissioner Bill Lewis.
Here.
Commissioner Nancy Golden.
Here.
Commissioner Jeff Nelson.
Present.
Commissioner Brian Patterson.
Present.
Commissioner Mitch Bolnick. Present. And Commissioner Lee Strickman, our chair, our normal chair, is out tonight. We'll read an opening statement. The commission is composed of Peoria citizens who have been appointed by the City Council to serve on the commission as a civic responsibility without compensation. Our duty is to study and review planning and zoning issues within the City of Peoria and then forward our recommendations to the City Council. All hearings are conducted in accordance with the rules for procedures and Robert's Rules of Order. Each case will be called in the order in which it appears in the agenda unless otherwise announced during the meeting. In the interest of maintaining a fair and efficient hearing, the Commission adheres to the following steps. Chairperson calls the case. Staff gives a brief report and recommendation. Applicant gives a presentation. Opposition and support gives testimony, and that will be generally limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Applicant may give a rebuttal, and then a commission discussion and decision will follow. Anyone wishing to speak must complete a speaker's request form and hand it to the planning assistant on my left. Please be as brief as possible and do not repeat statements already made by others. Anyone wishing to protest the decision of the commission public hearing item must request a second public hearing before the City Council. The request must be submitted in writing to the Planning and Community Development Department within 10 days after the Commission's hearing. All Commission recommendations on public hearing items move forward to a regular City Council meeting. The City Council will then act on the recommendation of the Commission. They may concur with the decision, modify it, or overturn it. We welcome citizens' comments, and as fellow citizens of Peoria, we thank you in advance for your participation. So this is right now the final call to submit speaker request forms. If anybody wishes to speak, please fill out a speaker request form and provide it to the staff seated at my left. First up is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is for items that are routine in nature and consists of 4 items tonight. Item 1C, disposition of absence, discussion and possible action to approve the absence of Commissioners Bill Lewis, Jay Atluski, and alternate member Mitch Bolnick from the Planning and Zoning Commission held on August 18th of 2016. Item 2C, discussion and possible action to approve the minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting held on August 18th of 2016. Item 3C, a conditional use 16-0019 Fry's Marketplace Wine Bar. Discussion and possible action regarding the request of a conditional use permit to allow a wine bar utilizing a Series 7 liquor license within the Fry's Marketplace. The site is located north of the northeast corner of Lake Pleasant and Lake Pleasant Parkway and Happy Valley Parkway within the Lake Pleasant Crossings Shopping Center. Item 4C, CU 16-0017, Auto Extreme Service Expansion. Discussion and possible action to consider a request for the conditional use permit to allow an expansion of Auto Extreme Auto Repair within an existing building located at 17561 North 91st Avenue. And then finally, item 5C, CU 16-0011, F&R Properties, Iron Key Studio. Discussing and possible action to consider a request for a conditional use permit to allow a tattoo and body piercing studio within Iron Key Studio, an existing art gallery located at 9210 West Peoria Avenue. Do any of the commissioners have any questions and or comments? Okay, seeing none, I need a motion on the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lewis?
I move for approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. I need a second.
I second the motion.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Nelson. Do we, okay, please vote. Okay, and the consent agenda passes unanimously. We now move on to new business, and the first agenda item under new business. Item 6R, zoning ordinance amendment, medical animal clinic parking requirements. Staff, could you please present your report?
Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Randy Proch, planner here at the City of Peoria. Tonight's agenda item 6R is TA 16-0005. This is for medical and animal clinic parking requirements. This is a text amendment. This is a city-initiated text amendment concerning parking standards for health clinics as well as veterinarian hospitals or clinics. These are two different land use types in our zoning ordinance. This is a focused amendment specifically just dealing with these two land uses, and this is in Article 1423, parking and loading requirements. This is to provide better aligned standards regarding minimum parking standards. Parking standards haven't been updated to our zoning ordinance since 2004. This is quite a while not to look at best practices in the valley. This included all changes to every land use type that we currently have and actually introduced one additional one. These two uses were looked at specifically because they are the most stringent in the city as well as in the valley. We did research from 9 different cities across the valley as well as the Institute of Transportation Engineers and with the Urban Land Institute to determine whether our standards were no longer in line with what we'd seen. Now, what it did show is that we do have more stringent standards than average and what's recommended in the 2 documents from ITE and ULI. Now, because of this, we are proposing the following changes to our ordinance this evening. For health clinics, the current parking ratio is 1 parking space provided for every 150 square feet of floor area of the building. We're proposing to change that to 1 parking space for every 200 square feet of floor area. The other change is to veterinarian hospitals or clinics. That is currently also at 1 to 150 square feet of floor area, and our recommendation based on our findings is that we can increase that to 1 space to every 250 square feet. This is also better in line with what we're seeing with shell buildings. A shell building simply means that they don't have a use in mind yet. When those buildings are constructed, they are constructed at a ratio of 1 to 175 square feet. When medical office uses were coming in, trying to achieve the right levels of parking when they were required to go to 1 to 150 square feet was difficult. They weren't able to accommodate certain uses, and businesses weren't able to locate in the city because there simply was not enough parking and the site had been already developed. So from this, our key findings are the following. The proposed amendment constitutes an overall improvement to the zoning ordinance. This better aligns the parking standards. And this proposed amendment is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the land use element of the general plan that promotes controlled development to facilitate orderly growth with an efficient urban form. Our recommendation tonight for 6R, TA 16-0005, is a recommendation of approval to the City Council of case TA 16-0005. And with that, I'll take any questions you may have.
Are there any questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Chairman Hutchinson. So I'm curious, does the proposed change affect the minimum number of handicap parking spaces as well, or is that managed separately by the ADA?
Members of the Commission and Commissioner Nelson, yes, that is handled separately by ADA.
Okay. And then my other question was, how come this does not address clinics, I'm talking about the veterinarian clinics and hospitals that do boarding? Why are they carved out of this?
Commissioner Nelson, boarding is considered an overnight. It's a different sort of study. You know, your animal owners would go and drop off those animals and then come back the next day or several days later versus a clinic where there's in and out movement throughout the day.
Okay, so is that addressed in a different part of the zoning ordinance?
There is a separate line item for boarding, yes.
I gotcha. Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Any other questions from you? Commissioner Golden?
Thank you, Chairman. I do have a question. It does seem to me that, are we just talking about standalone medical facilities? Or, I mean, when I go to the doctor, there are 15 doctor offices there. And are you saying that every 150 square feet will have to have so many
Members,
parking places?
Commissioner Golden, yes, so if there is a multi-tenant building, each tenant or each user of that space would have to come into those requirements, correct?
But it seems to me that there are some medical practices that have more traffic than other medical practices. And there must have been some thinking by this city on why you had a higher standard than most, and in most cities. And I guess I'm wondering, is something changed that made you want to change the standard?
Members, Commissioner Golden, yes, we did review the ULI and the ITE documents that showed that we were much more stringent than what we'd seen across the valley. We are running into issues on the opposite side of users not being able to go into spaces because they just can't meet the minimum parking requirements. We aren't seeing too little parking at this time. We feel like the change to 1 to 150 to 1 to 200 is large enough to still meet all standards, but isn't going to cause further issues down the road, no.
And this is including staff parking?
We don't segregate between,
So staff parking is separate, it's just 10,
it's regardless of who the person is in the building.
I'm saying that again?
It's regardless of staff or visitor
Okay.
or patient, it's all under the same umbrella.
Okay. I guess where I'm having some problems is, I know I've been to the doctors and I can't find a parking place. And I think, it seems like there's some issue, I mean, there must be some halfway point, I don't know. I'm just not comfortable with the change, that's all.
Members of the commission, maybe I can add a little bit to this discussion. The standard that we've had in the zoning code used to be for a long period of time, 1 stall per 200 square feet of floor area. So that was the standard. And then about 10, 12 years ago, it was adjusted and made a little more conservatively down to 150. And so it wasn't clear why that standard was met. Now, we always try to keep our standards within our zoning code relevant and as current as possible. And what we've found in recent months in working with potential prospects, new relocates or hospital, or I should say medical clinics that are seeking to expand, is that the standard that we have is out of alignment. So in looking at that standard, and we've seen that difficulty in several instances, so in looking at that, not only did we research what some of our neighbors across the valley had, but we looked at some of the professional publications. And when they look at clinics across the country and normalize the standard and look at those practices in terms of how many spaces they require and what the industry requires for it to have. And so they provide a recommended standard. We looked at those standards, looked at our neighbors as well, and determined that our standard was a little more aggressive than it needed to be and out of alignment with best practices. And so that's the purpose of the amendment.
We're so much better than the other cities, you know? Okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions? Commissioner Nelson?
Sorry about that. Just want to offer a follow-up. So I work in healthcare, and I will tell you that healthcare is changing in that we are being encouraged as health systems to get patients out of hospitals and into outpatient settings for care. That's primary care clinics, that's going to be specialty offices, and so on and so forth. So, so the trend is that, the hope is that more people are going to be getting care in outpatient settings in these clinics, these physician offices, versus coming to the hospital, coming to the EDs. So how are we going to monitor to see if that trend continues and ends up revealing that we have a shortage of parking spaces at these clinics because these clinics are getting busier, they're seeing more patients? Do we monitor that? Do we track that to make sure that this ordinance, because it's just, the numbers we looked at from other cities, that's a snapshot of today. That's 5 years from now, it could look very different. Mm-hmm. So how do we monitor that? Do we monitor that? Do we revisit that? Do we get feedback from clinics? How do we determine if this is going to continue to?
Members of the Commissioner Nelson, that's a great question, great observation, and that's exactly right. We do continue to monitor the practices in the industry, and also talking with companies that are within that framework, and if they're in that use. So we're continuing to monitor that, and over time, our standards might have to be adjusted again. But we're pretty confident that 1 to 200, in looking at similar uses across the city, looking at aerial photos and peak times, that it's a reasonable standard.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the commission? Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing. Does staff have, is there anyone that is, I don't have any speaker request forms. Was anybody that wanted to speak on this? Okay, is there any more report or additional information from staff? Okay. All right, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Any additional comments from the commissioners before we take a vote? Okay, with that, I'll need a motion on item 6R.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lewis?
I make a motion that we recommend approval of case TA 16-0005 to the City Council, amending Section 14-23-3B2 of the City of Peoria zoning ordinance as identified in Exhibit A of the report.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Nelson. Could we please vote? Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, next up, agenda item number 7R. This is the Saguaro Sky Medical Marijuana Dispensary. Staff, could you please present your report?
Members of the Commission, before we start tonight, I'd like to take just a few minutes to give a little bit of context with regards to medical marijuana in Arizona and in the City of Peoria. In November 2010, the voters passed, Arizona voters passed Proposition 203, the Medical Marijuana Act. And it named the Arizona Department of Health Services the regulatory agency to establish and enforce the certification process for distribution of cultivation facilities and dispensaries. The distribution of dispensary locations was determined at a statewide level, basis, analyzing the number of traditional pharmacies per community health analysis area, or CHA. At that time, a ratio of 1 dispensary for every 10 pharmacies was established, which equated to about 124 possible dispensaries statewide. Proposition 203 also granted cities the reasonable zoning authority to regulate medical marijuana uses, but it could not prohibit them nor create zoning restrictions that would have the effect of prohibiting them. So in other words, you couldn't require a separation between them that would put them outside of your city limits, would be one example. So in February 2011, about a month before the Medical Marijuana Act became effective, the City Council approved a zoning text amendment that established Peoria's regulatory framework for these uses. This framework, for example, restricts these uses to commercial districts, the C2, C4, and C5 districts, all with a conditional use permit. It also required separation from schools, daycares, liquor stores. That separation is 1,000 feet, and 500 feet from residential districts. A half mile, 2,640 feet from other medical marijuana facilities was also required. Our framework also prohibits the drive-through and delivery options. It prohibits cultivation on site. It requires a city-approved security management plan. The medical marijuana product must be inaccessible to the public. In other words, it must be dispensed in a separate medicine room within the facility and not in a lobby-type area. On-site consumption was prohibited. Alcohol consumption and sale on-site was prohibited. Even down to the building, where additional air filtration systems had to be incorporated into the construction of the building to ensure compatibility with adjacent uses. There was a refuse management requirement, so the product could not just be disposed of in a common trash can external to the building. when so when that was passed in February 2011, a month later, April 2011, I'm sorry, 2 months later, the Medical Marijuana Act became effective, and it was estimated that Peoria would have 3 to 5 eligible sites. Currently, we only have one dispensary operating in Peoria. It's west of 91st Avenue in Peoria in the Home Depot parking lot. There's a shops building to the north of Home Depot there. But this year, the Arizona Department of Health Services is reassessing the distribution and the number of possible dispensary locations statewide. As mentioned earlier, the number of allowed dispensaries was based on the number of traditional pharmacies. So, because the number of pharmacies has increased, the Department of Health Services may issue up to 31 new dispensary certificates. Arizona Department of Health Services will consider these applications for new certificates based on their prioritization criteria, which can be found by visiting the Arizona Department of Health Services website at azdhs.gov and search for medical marijuana. The process is separate from our conditional use permit process, though the agency does require local zoning clearance to issue the certification to operate. Any clarifications regarding this information can be provided by the applicants when their items are being heard this evening. With that, I can take any questions you have or turn it over to staff to continue with the conditional use permit request presentation.
Just a clarification on that, the ACH or HSCCs, has that actually been put through then, 31 is the new number?
Commissioner Otluski, the 31 is the number that has been published so far. If that changes, that would be up to the state. I
Okay,
can't
I was just
confirm
curious if that's official number now or if that's, okay, thank
that.
you.
Yes, apparently it is.
Any other questions from the commission to staff? Did you want to continue?
So continuing on this evening with CU 16-0012, the Saguaro Sky Medical Marijuana Dispensary. This is item number 7R. The applicant this evening is Andy Workman. This location is 9240 West Northern Avenue at Suite 103A. This is within the Peoria Crossing Shopping Center at the northwest corner of 91st Avenue Northern, anchored by Target and Kohl's. The size of the suite that will be occupied is just over 1,500 square feet, and the request this evening is to obtain the conditional use permit that would allow a medical marijuana dispensary. Please keep in mind that this is only step one of many further steps that they would go through with the Arizona Department of Health Services. As mentioned earlier, this is the Community Health Analysis Areas, the CHAWS. Peoria is situated in 3. The outline of the city's limits is displayed there on the right on the map. So Peoria is one CHAW. However, the city itself falls under Wickenburg and Maricopa County North. This is by the Arizona Department of Health Services. Now, again, for the first time since initial calculations, the number of pharmacies was reevaluated, and a total of 31 more dispensaries was determined to be the number that could be issued by the Department of Health Services. Now, during the summer, between July 18th and the 29th, anyone wishing to register to try to win the lottery, as it is perceived by the state, to obtain one of the 31 additional certificates, had to apply during that time. And again, this is the first step towards obtaining one of those licenses. Now, the CHA, as you see it on the screen, is not changing. The Peoria will remain in the 3 as shown. And as mentioned before, Natural Selections, the current location is starred there on the map in the southern end of the city. As far as zoning goes, the Peoria Crossing is a planned area development with underlining C2 uses. The PAD did not prohibit any use that's normally allowed in C2, which would include dispensaries for this instance. Now, to the south is not the city of Peoria, it's Maricopa County, with a rural 43 zoning district. That is a residential zoning district. I have an exhibit coming up that shows that it is outside of the required distance. And the updated memo you received this evening shows the City of Glendale Agricultural District to the south directly. Now, this dispensary will be going into a vacant inline suite. The parking lot that is surrounding the building is shared between all uses. There is an abundance. This won't be a hindrance on the existing parking. They all have a cross-parking agreement. The hours are from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., which is in line with our local requirements. And again, there is no growing or cultivation on this site. And the applicant does have a current location on the East Valley, so this is all very familiar. And this is to what the applicant has already obtained at our location. So they are very familiar with our standards and the state standards. Now, as mentioned, the closest residential district is to the southeast. The blue line there on the screen represents a distance of 500 feet. The suite itself is to the north of that, towards the northern end of the building, outside of that 500-foot distance requirement. The applicant also did provide a list of all uses within 1,000 feet of the building to ensure that no business operating in Peoria Crossings was in conflict with our local restrictions. To the south of the site is undeveloped land, so there was a short list of potential users that could conflict. None of them did. As far as on and off-site security measures, you can see below we have a very long list that's part of our standards and vetted through the Peoria Police Department. All of this is well established as far as the security guards, a third-party monitoring system that views it 24 hours a day. There are panic buttons. There are cameras spread throughout the suite, indoors and outdoors, with that video storage being kept for 60 days. And the two entry points, exit points are both commercial grade with non-residential type locks. As far as the products themselves, they are stored in lock cases that are behind patient counters during all business hours. After hours, these products are put into the safe room that is kept secure in line with a heavy-duty DEA-approved type cage. The safe room and the inventory cage will have high security entry requirements, self-closing, self-locking doors, with a panel that's just flush to the floor. This is all very high quality, very strict regulations that the applicant is very aware of. And again, no consumption will be allowed inside the suite, on site at all, or in the vehicles around the premise. Now, with the conditional use permit, noticing is required, including the application notice and the hearing notice. This was sent to residents within 600 feet of the site and all HOAs within 1 mile. And the site has been posted on 91st Avenue and Northern Avenue as well. We did receive one email of opposition that came in after the notice of hearing. This was approximately 6 weeks after the initial application was brought in, so a neighborhood meeting was not required. The opposition felt that the use did not fit in with the Peoria Crossings PAD. However, again, as mentioned, the PAD allows all uses within the C2 zoning district. None of them were prohibited, so this is allowed. The applicant has a lease on file with the shopping center, so this isn't news to anybody. As far as our key findings for this evening, the use is designated as a conditional use within the zoning district that the property is located. It does meet all locational and development standards for the city of Peoria, and the use will not be detrimental to the health, safety, or general welfare of the surrounding neighborhood. With this, we ask that you approve case CU 16-0015, subject to all the stipulations outlined in the staff report. And with that, I'll take any questions you may have.
Are there any questions or statements from the commission? Okay, with that, I'm going to open the public hearing. Do we have any speakers on, this is on 7 on? Okay. We have a person wishing to speak, Andy Workman. Would you please come to the podium? Please state your name and your address for the record.
My name is Andy Workman. My address is 2415 East Cloud Drive, Chandler, Arizona, 85249. I just wanted to come up here and introduce myself. I have been a current operator in this space for 3 years now. I do operate a dispensary south of the city of Maricopa, so it's Pinal County land. So you guys got a good explanation of the AZDHS ruling of how there's new licenses coming out, and my goal is to receive one of those licenses. However, if I do not, I am looking to move my current location to this Peoria location. So I know that was explained how may or may not happen, but I am trying to move forward with a location or a medical marijuana dispensary at this location, to clarify that. And then just again, I've been operating here in this space for 3 years. I've done all the required state audits and all that. Been working with multiple dispensaries, so I have experience, and kind of just want to introduce myself and answer any questions you guys may have regarding the industry.
Okay, and forgive me, Mr. Workman, are you the applicant?
I am the applicant, yes.
Okay, see, I got the applicant. Does any of the commission have any questions? Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Chairman. A quick question. Do you sell smoking paraphernalia at the store, or would you?
Yeah, yes, we do currently, and there's no, that I've read, Peoria does not prohibit that.
So would it just be for patients? And I'm sorry to interrupt you. Would it be just for patients, or could it be stuff for recreational smoking where people off the street that do it illegally could come in and buy stuff as well?
Strictly patients. So once you enter the facility, there will be a separation from any sort of retail sale goods and the waiting room. So they will need the state card to even get back where all products are. And there will be provided the paraphernalia and such. So they will need to be an active patient to be able to purchase that kind of stuff.
So to buy either, they have to have the medical marijuana
To even
card.
see it, technically, they have to have that to even go back into that room.
Okay, so there's not bongs back there
No,
and stuff
no.
like that. I just heard, I don't know anything
Yeah.
about it.
Of course.
I just read the news. So it's going to be stuff for administering it for medical purposes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
And how does that differ from recreational paraphernalia? Can you educate us a little bit on that?
To be honest, there is no big difference.
Okay.
It's quite the same. Usually the exact same stuff. There is
Okay.
more. There's apparatuses that create a better medicinal benefit and are easier to take in, but theoretically it can be used both recreational and medical.
Okay. But again, they would have to produce that medical marijuana card to buy anything. Okay. Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Commissioner Golden?
Thank you. I have a question for the staff, and that is, now that we have one location open, we have some experience now, and can you tell me, have there been any problems at that location?
Members of the Commission, Commissioner Golden, as part of this application process, we speak extensively with the Peoria Police Department, who does vet the site, vet the security plan, and is very familiar with Natural Selection as our current location. To date, there have been no issues with that site, and they've actually been very informative for our police department to learn more about the business and regulations that go with it.
And the other location that we approved, 91st and Peoria, I thought that was more of an industrial area that we approved. It wasn't such like a shopping center, was it?
Commissioner Golden, yes, it's within the Home Depot shopping center.
Oh, it's in the Home Depot.
Southwest
Oh,
corner.
it's in the Home
So,
Depot, okay.
there's a Frazee Paint next
Okay.
door and Del Taco next to that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Are there any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Was there anybody else wishing to speak on item 7R? Okay. Any other questions for staff? Commissioner Nelson?
So we've got one at 91st Avenue in Peoria. We've got this one proposed. We have another one coming up. They seem to be kind of grouping together and within a 4 or 5 mile radius of each other. Is staff comfortable with that? Is that just a reflection of the market, that a lot of medical marijuana card holders live in those areas and that they're going there because that's where the market is that they want to serve?
Members
Help me
of
understand that.
Commissioner Nelson, because of all the separation requirements that go with this, There aren't very many places in the city that you can find a commercial shopping center and still meet all other distance requirements.
Okay.
So yes, for the purposes of this case tonight, 91st and Northern is 2 miles south of 91st and Peoria. The minimum separation distance between dispensaries is half a mile.
It's a half a mile, okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Are there any other comments from the commissioners before we vote? All right, seeing none, I'll take a motion on item 7R.
Chairman, I move that we forward a favorable recommendation to the City Council for case number 7R CU 16-0015, subject to the conditions and stipulations outlined in staff's report.
Commissioner Nelson,
Did I
you are the
apologize?
final say on this vote. It does not go to the city council.
Oh, that's right, this is a CUP. I apologize, so may I change my?
You may.
I move that we approve case number 7R CU 160015, subject to the conditions and stipulations outlined in staff report. My apologies.
Is it 1-2 or 1-5? CU 160012, it was announced at the beginning of your report.
I apologize if it was. The case number is CU 16-0015 as shown.
1-5, okay.
Did I state it correctly?
Yeah. I have a motion for 7R in favor. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, it's seconded by Commissioner Lewis. Please vote. Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item up is item 8R, CU 16-0009, medical marijuana dispensary. Staff, please present your report.
Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Jennifer Faustino. I'm with the Planning Division. Tonight, I'll be presenting a conditional use permit for a medical marijuana dispensary, case number CU 16-0009. This application was submitted by Edward Judas with Northern RE Investments. The subject property is located at the southwest corner of 91st Avenue and Olive Avenue. The site is just over an acre, and the request is to obtain a conditional use permit to operate a medical marijuana dispensary on the subject property. The surrounding area consists of a Quick Trip gas station to the north, zoned planned area development. To the northeast is a Chevron gas station, zone intermediate commercial, C2. To the east is a McDonald's restaurant within a Fry's shopping center, zone C2. To the west is the Loop 101, and to the south is Olive Retail Park, consisting of a restaurant and medical offices, zone C2. The subject property is also zone C2, and a medical marijuana dispensary does require a conditional use permit within the C2 zoning district. All required distance separations have been met, as shown here. The closest residentially zoned property is Cross Point Subdivision, which is approximately 10 feet outside of the 500-foot radius. The closest liquor store and/or substance treatment center is Deli Sports Bar, located over 7,500 feet away, and the closest school is Altaloma Elementary School, which is over 2,700 feet away. The closest medical marijuana dispensary is Arizona Natural Selections, which is over 5,100 feet away. The subject property is currently undeveloped, with the exception of a wireless communications facility located in the southwest corner and the existing improved area along the southern portion of the property. The conceptual site plan for this proposal is on the right side of the screen. It is almost identical in terms of the drive aisle and building locations to the site plan on the left, which was approved in 2009 but has since expired. The subject property can be accessed from 91st Avenue through the adjacent parcel to the south. There is a cross-access easement currently recorded allowing this access. 7 parking spaces are required for the proposed use, and 27 are provided, giving ample parking for the future building pad. The proposed site plan is conceptual at this point and will have to go through a formal site plan process for approval, but it will be required to substantially conform to the layout shown here. The hours of operation will be daily from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. The number of employees will range from 8 to 14. The average number of patients during a non-peak time is 5, with peak times increasing to 15, with an average of 150 patients per day. Patient visits are typically short, lasting less than 10 minutes. Everyone entering the facility will be required to check in with a valid medical marijuana patient registration card, along with an Arizona-issued license or identification card. Medical marijuana is offered in its natural plant form, as well as preparations made from the marijuana plant, including infused edibles, topical lotions, balms, and oils. There will be limited ancillary sales of products designed to aid in the administration of the medical marijuana. This includes items such as grinders, lighters, electronic vaporizer pens, and similar delivery methods. There are no plans to sell items such as water pipes, which are typically shown in smoke shops. All products are delivered to the dispensary prepackaged. Nothing is grown or cultivated on site. And consumption of all medical marijuana product on site is prohibited. Outdoor seating and loitering is prohibited. Delivery and drive-through services are prohibited. Security measures have been taken as required by the Arizona Department of Health Services and the City of Peoria. There will be a video surveillance system that consists of 32 cameras covering the entrance, the outdoor and indoor building area, and the parking lot. There will also be a monitored alarm system and a security guard posted at the main entrance at all times during business hours. The public was notified as outlined in Article 14-39-6 of the Peoria zoning ordinance. Opposition was received on June 20th from South Peoria Baptist Church and on July 25th from the West Green Townhouses Association. A neighborhood meeting was held at the Peoria Public Library in the Willow Conference Room at 6 p.m. on July 26th. There was one attendee, and he did not have any issues or concerns with the proposal. South Peoria Baptist Church is located northeast of the subject property, approximately 390 feet away. A church representative sent an email on June 20th stating their concern and opposition to the use of marijuana as they see it as a pathway drug. The applicant has reached out to the church numerous times through telephone calls, emails, physical site visits with no success. A representative of the church was not present at the neighborhood meeting, and no other contact has been made by the church to the applicant or the city since the email on June 20th. West Green Townhomes is located northeast of the subject property, approximately 530 feet away. A representative of the West Green Townhouses Association sent an email on July 25th stating their concern and opposition of the medical marijuana use for various reasons, but the main concerns were an increase in traffic and crime to the general area due to the proposed use. The representative was not able to attend the neighborhood meeting, so a special meeting was held on August 3rd at the Townhomes Clubhouse with the representative, the applicant, and myself in attendance. The applicant played a short video depicting business operations and security measures in use for an existing medical marijuana dispensary he currently operates. Information concerning trip generation in comparison to other commercial uses outright permitted at the subject property was also discussed. By the conclusion of the meeting, the townhome's representative was no longer opposed to the medical marijuana dispensary at the proposed location and sent an email on August 12th retracting the opposition. Staff does feel that the key findings for this request have been met, and staff recommends approval of case CU 16-0009, subject to the conditions of approval as stated in the staff report, and staff and the applicant are available for any questions you may have.
Okay, are there any questions from the commissioners to staff? Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Chairman. So just for clarification here, in the zoning ordinance, it says that uses shall not be located within 1,000 feet of a retail liquor store, tavern, substance abuse center, bar or lounge. It's the retail liquor store one that's got me a little concerned because in the support materials, we got a Winery 101 apparently listed within 1,000 feet. So can you clarify why that didn't prohibit this use?
Commissioner Nelson, the retail liquor store is a very particular type of liquor license, or it would be a limited types of establishments that sell liquor that would fall into that category. I believe the Winery 101 has a different type of liquor license as more of the vineyard/production of wine, as opposed to a traditional liquor store that would sell a variety of products. So it has to do with the specific type of liquor license, the same that a restaurant could hold a liquor license and still be allowed within proximity, as opposed to a tavern or bar holding a different liquor license. So there are various categories, and we do differentiate between those.
So thank you for that. So the zoning ordinance is specific as to which types of liquor licenses are excluded or included?
Commissioner
Would we
Nelson.
be covered if we were challenged for whatever reason?
Commissioner Nelson, yes, I believe that that particular use is under a different category and not under the retail liquor license.
So it's that
So-
retail category, okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Any other questions for the staff? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to open the public hearing. Is the applicant present? Could you please state your name and address for the record?
Members of the commission, my name is Thomas Galvin. I'm with Rose Law Group, 7144 East Stetson Drive, Scottsdale, Arizona, 85251, on behalf of the applicant. We have prepared a full, robust presentation for you, but in light of comments tonight from staff from this item and the previous item and the questions that have been asked, I'm going to try to tighten it up a bit, if that's okay. We have a presentation up here on the screen for you. This location, which was described just a few minutes ago, here's a higher level view. You can see the commercial activity at each spot, the QT, the Chevron gas station, the Jack in the Box, the McDonald's, and just south of it, the medical office building. And it's bounded to the west by the 101 loop. This site is unique. It's a vacant lot. It has been so for many years. It's a challenging site for a couple of reasons, most of which the most important reason is that there is a 20-foot water line easement that essentially bisects the property. And as you can see, that purple hexagon shape on the lower left is the wireless tower. The site plan was approved in 2009. Nothing has happened there since, and that site plan has since expired. At this, under this proposed plan, you could see proposed landscaping that would surround the building. The building, which would be about 2,000 square feet, would be at the northeast section of the property. Bloom is a very well-respected name in the medical marijuana dispensary community. They have several other locations, including in Phoenix. The one in Phoenix was one of the first ones in the Valley in 2013. They also have one in Tucson and in Oracle. And at none of these sites has there been any security issues or problems. At this location, Bloom predicts that there will be over $100,000 in annual sales tax revenue for the city of Peoria, and they predict they will have over $500,000 in projected annual payroll. The community outreach efforts have been significant, as outlined by Jennifer tonight, by staff. At this open house meeting, we had one person that came over. And as you now know, the email here is the retraction of the formal protest. We have 19 signatures of support that I want to submit tonight to the commission and to staff. Security is extremely robust. There will be 32 cameras on the inside and outside of the facility. These security measures will be occurring at all times, and this controlled access will be by authorized personnel. As you can see, there will be panic buttons and alarms, and no loitering will be allowed, and there will be a no loitering sign posted. Bloom is a very engaged member of the community in civic and charitable organizations. They have participated in the St. Vincent de Paul Food Drive, Toys for Tots, St. Vincent de Paul, Phoenix Children's Hospital, Make-A-Wish, Harvesting Hope, Arizona Autism United, the Epilepsy Foundation of Arizona, Verde Valley Military Service in Sedona. And also, they've helped with the beautification of the area and have participated in the Adopt a Street program. So you can see that their civic engagement has been significant. These are the legal requirements that were met. I'm not going to walk you through each one of them in the staff report, but I do want to highlight some patients of Bloom who are here tonight in support. If you can raise your hands, please. I'm just going to walk through this part here. Let me know if this is fascinating enough you want me to stop. This is the map outline that you saw earlier tonight for the CHAWS. Out of the 31 new licenses, the Department of Health Services has prioritized them. Peoria is number 7 out of 31 in terms of priority. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions for the applicant from the commission? Commissioner Lusky.
Just a quick question, I guess just clarifying in my mind. The West Green Townhouse Association had objected to it. What was their main objection?
I can speak to that, Tom.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Identify yourself.
Edward Judice, 14 South 41st Place, Phoenix, Arizona. I'm the applicant. And I was in the meeting with the West Green Townhomes Association. Her primary concern really did revolve around traffic and the impact of something like this in the neighborhood. We were able to, talk to her, myself and Ms. Hall from the Rose Law Group. We went out as well as Ms. Faustino, and we sat down and had a good little meeting with her to address her concerns and talk about it. And at the end of the meeting, she says, of course, I'm not opposed to medical marijuana as an item. I just had concerns about the site. I've seen the way that you operate, and I feel very comfortable not only with the traffic concerns because of the way that the easement is situated, but also with the safety and security and the way that we practice business.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Nelson?
Thank you. I'm not sure who to direct this question to, but same question as I had for the prior applicant. Are you going to be selling to anybody who does not have a medical marijuana card?
No, sir. The process is that they must present their medical marijuana card. We check it for its validity and make sure that it hasn't expired. We also check against either an Arizona state issued ID or a U.S. passport to verify that they're who they say they are. And that's required to even get into anywhere where we have medicine.
And I'm particularly concerned, I understand the medicine piece, the paraphernalia. I don't know why I have such a hard time with that word. Paraphernalia? Is that, am I pronouncing it correct? Do you sell that as well, and would you be selling that to anybody other than patients?
We do not. We really don't have anything that you would find in a traditional sort of smoke shop. Everything that we have is geared towards medical administration, and even if we did, it would only be for sale to medical patients.
Gotcha, thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Sorry, one more question, and so I understand it better. There won't be, from my understanding, won't be a doctor on site that can issue a card. They would have to do that off-site and then come to your building?
That's correct. The regulations don't allow for don't allow for us to have that doctor on staff as part of the dispensary. And then additionally, there's no certification clinic that's attached to us. And even if there were, a patient would have to come in with their medical records. They would have to be seen, evaluated. The doctor would have to fill out a form. That form's then sent to the state. And so there's no way somebody could make a same-day purchase, coming in, getting certified, and make a same-day purchase. It's at least a week to 2-week process if DHS is on their game.
On their game. All right, thanks.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to go through the speaker request forms now. We have several people who have made indication they would like to speak on the item. I will call your name if you would like to come down to the podium and speak in favor or against. Please state your name for the record as we go through, and your address. Linda Parsons.
Hi, I'm Linda Parsons. I live at 11222 North 16th Avenue in Phoenix. Zip is 85029. It's basically 19th Avenue in Peoria. Just wanted to be here to say that I have been a patient of Bloom since they opened, and they are extremely professional. The staff is very, very well educated, and they really are there to assist a patient with a specific medical need. And I was a little skeptical at first, but I can tell you that I have been absolutely amazed at their ability to prescribe exactly what I need based on what the condition is that I'm dealing with at the moment. So I just wanted to speak on their behalf because I've been to other places, and I think that they are really very well qualified to do what they do. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Next up, we have John McDonald.
Excuse me, members of the commission, I just want to make a quick note that everyone who signed to speak is a supporter and a patient, in case you just didn't know.
Yes, they all
I want to
indicated
continue
in favor.
hearing everyone. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. McDonald?
Yes, my name is John McDonald. I live at 1022 West 18th Street, Tempe, Arizona. I've been going to Bloom since 3 months after they opened up, and I just could not believe the level of professionalism that they have showed me. When I was 16, I had a bad motorcycle wreck. I've got hardware in my body. Typical medicine doesn't help me, it hurts me. My indigestion, everything else that comes along with the pills that they give you, let alone the addiction. Bloom has been super professional. They help me with my back, my hips, and I can sleep at night. My appetite's back. I can't believe how much they have helped me. Very professional, never had a problem there. Answer any questions I have. If they don't have the answer, they will find it. I thank Bloom for being what they are.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have Edmund Vartugian. Sorry if I'm...
Yes, hi, my name is Edmund Vartugian, 4400 North Scottsdale Road, Suite 91, Scottsdale, Arizona, 85251. I work with the principals of Bloom, and I have been developing all of their properties to date, and I would be the one that would be handling the development of this site. And I can say that I've worked with them. We've developed 3 properties from retail to full-scale cultivation. And I also work with others in the state as well, too, and just want to speak to the level of their professionalism and their experience as operators, and I would be handling the development in this case. So,
All right, thank you very much. Next up, we have Ryan Hurley.
No need to speak.
Okay, thank you. Paul Bloom.
Hi, I'm Paul Blum. My office address is 2833 North 48th Street, Phoenix. And I represent the seller of the land, who also has the medical practice directly to the south, and he is in favor of this development and believes that it will add to the medical care in the area.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have Stephanie Perrian.
I'm Stephanie, 14 South 41st Place, Phoenix, Arizona. I am the patient satisfaction liaison for Bloom. I deal directly with all the patients to make sure that they're satisfied, that their visits are great. If there's anything we can do to address any negative experiences, although they're a little, sometimes, you know, you have to deal with people, and try to make sure that every visit and interaction they have with Bloom is a positive one. And I do that regularly, and we make sure that everybody's happy and satisfied and on their way. Thank you.
Okay, very good, thank you. And now we have R. Dave Morrissey.
Dave Morrissey, 3726 West Northview, Phoenix, Arizona. For 35 years, I was a firefighter for the city of Phoenix. I served with your current fire chief, Bobby Reese. I was an original member of our technical rescue team. And 2 years after I retired, I was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic prostate cancer. I applied for and received my medical marijuana card. And I've been to a number of the dispensaries around the state. Bloom is my favorite. I want to get this right, so I'm going to read it. They're a combination of quality product at a fair price, a safe and professional service. Knowledgeable staff alone makes them superior, but they are my favorites because of their Bloom Gives Back program of community service. In particular, I'd cite their fundraising efforts in the aftermath of the tragedy at Yarnell Hill, and their similar fundraising efforts for Officer Scott Safranca after he was shot in the line of duty, a Phoenix police officer. It's my opinion that Bloom Dispensary would benefit the city of Peoria and its surrounding communities and become a valuable asset to your tax base. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Best wishes to your recovery.
I'm not cancer-free.
Very good. Okay, I have no other speaker request forms. Is there any further comments from the commissioners for staff? At this point, I'm going to close the public hearing. Before we vote, does the commission have any additional questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to ask for a motion on item 8R.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of the applicant's request for a conditional use permit under case CU 16-0009, subject to conditions 1 through 6 as outlined in staff's report.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Lewis. We need a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Atlusky. With that, please vote. Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda, item 9R, election of a vice chair. Discussion and possible action to elect the vice chair for the remainder of 2016.
Good evening, Commissioners. The last item on our regular agenda tonight is the election of a vice chair. This comes with the resignation of the former vice chair, Leonard Spraker. Before you have a list of some of the individuals who've recently served in the various officer capacities. Every year we do elect the chair, vice chair, and secretary at the beginning of the year to serve for a one-year term. In this case, with the resignation, we do have a vacancy in the vice chair position for the remainder of this calendar year, so just the next few months, that we do need to fill. Due to the positions, each vice chair may serve for up to 2 years. Based on previous service, we have 3 members who are currently eligible to be elected as vice chair for the remainder of 2016. That is Jeff Nelson, Jay Atlusky, and Brian Patterson. With that, we would ask that the commission vote to replace the vice chair for the remainder of the term. And I would take any questions if you have any.
Anybody have any questions for staff? With that, I'll open up for nominations for the vice chair.
Mr. Chairman, I would nominate Jeff Nelson for the position of vice chair.
Okay. Commissioner Nelson, you accept the nomination?
Thank you, I would.
Okay, are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? And for the third time, final time, are there any other nominations? Seeing none, please vote on electing Commissioner Nelson to the vice chair.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, since I've been sitting here, I might as well say something. So the nominations were good, but
Right.
now you can go ahead and do the motion. So have someone move that Commissioner Nelson be named vice chair second, and then go ahead and vote.
Okay, so we go through a formal motion. So
Yes,
I need
please.
a motion to elect Commissioner Nelson as vice chair.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that Commissioner Jeff Nelson be elected as vice chair.
Okay, second on that? Do we have a second? Okay. Now, please vote on the nomination.
Don't know if I'm supposed to vote or not.
Of course.
You could vote. Just don't vote no.
Okay, it passes unanimously. We have a new vice chair, Commissioner Nelson. Thank you very much. Okay, now, are there any comments from the public on non-agenda items? Okay, seeing none. We'll call on the reports from staff.
Members of the commission, just the usual update for the next few hearings. We have canceled the October 6th hearing, but are scheduled for October 20th for a regular scheduled meeting in this location. That is all.
Okay. Reports from the Planning and Zoning Commission. Do we have any commissioners have anything else to report? All right, seeing no further business, I call this meeting adjourned.